Now, I would like to invite Dr. Lesan Azadi, Director of Bahai Academy, for his opening remarks. But before that, it is my humble duty to introduce him as well. Dr. Lesan Azadi is the Director of Bahai Academy Panchgani, is an engineer of metallurgy, a postgraduate in sustainable development from Staffordshire University, UK. He has received the Commonwealth Scholarship Award. He has completed education for development from Columbia and a PhD in education from Savitribai, Phule, Pune University. For over 3 decades, he has been working in the field of training and education of universal human values, teaching learning methodologies, leadership for change, fostering youth's personal development and social progress, and life skills. He has conducted extensive educational tours to over 20 countries in Asia, Africa, Europe, and Australia. Since 1986, he has been the director of the Baha'i Academy, a recognized institution of Shivaji University, Kolhapur. The Academy initiated a program of education in universal human values for institutions of higher learning in the year 2000, training college teachers as well as postgraduate and undergraduate students of various faculties and administrative staff members of colleges and about 2 scores of universities. He has won the support of 3 award-winning international collaborators from Colombia, Russia, and Australia for this program. His recent internationally published book is titled Instruction Modes for Value Education. He has immense editorial work experience as well, and a member of different committees and forums like International Forum of Teachers of the UNESCO Chair of Bioethics, and IEF's Geneva and Indian Adult Education Association New Delhi, to just mention a few. We really look forward to receiving words of wisdom from all of you during this inaugural session. Over to you, dear sir, for the opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Saili. Very respected chief guest of today's function, Professor M.M. Salun Keser, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bahai Vidyapith, Deep University. Respected Mr. Vivek Savant, the Chief Mentor of Maharashtra Knowledge Corporation. Respected Professor Sanjeev Sonone, Honorable Pro-Vice Chancellor of Pune University, all the dear participants of the conference, dear partners, universities, Shivaji University, Pune University, MIT World Peace University, YCMOU, and Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan, Maharashtra, Goa, and all the collaborating research colleges which are partners in this conference. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all, friends, once again, and express my deepest gratitude for all your wonderful collaboration for the past few months leading to today's conference. Dear friends, the question here is that why do we want to discuss dropouts in tertiary education? You know, tertiary education that includes higher secondary, college, technical, and vocational schools, and higher education as well, according to the UN, is instrumental in fostering growth, reducing poverty, and boosting shared prosperity. Its benefits not just reach to the individual, but to the entire educational system. Dropouts who discontinue their tertiary education constitute, friends, a sizable number of youth in India and in many other countries. They are potentially an important driving force in the social and economic development of this country and of the world, and in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals 2035. In his book, Who Graduates from College, Who Doesn't?, Mark Kontrowitz writes about United States colleges. He says the United States has a higher education system that is the envy of the world. Its breadth, its diversity, and its near universal access are the engine that has propelled the United States to become the world's economic superpower. Yet, it has a fundamental problem. More than half of its students who enter the system leave with no credential to show for their investment in time and money. More than 1 million students drop out of college every year, he writes. More than half of college students who do not graduate on time, they don't graduate on time. 3/4 of college dropouts are first-generation college students, and more than 2/3 are low-income students. In fact, if you visit this website, College Graduation Dropout Statistics in USA, you will get every detail according to the gender, according to the state, according to the discipline of their studies, and every other classification that you can think of, what is the rate and extent of dropouts in the USA. Our Indian scenario, friends, is not any better. Despite this, it's very difficult to find any thorough study that might have been done on this issue. The percentage of the youth who are dropouts, the reasons for their being, having stopped their education. In fact, I've personally spoken randomly with some college authorities, principals of mainly the general discipline colleges, arts, commerce, and science. And I asked them about the difference between the number of students in the first year when they join the college, enroll in the college, and the number who actually at the end graduate. The answer, there is a very vast gap. Even sometimes up to 40 to 50% of the students don't see the graduation, even sometimes more. Usually, we talk about enhancing gross enrollment ratio in higher education. And now the UGC has introduced what is called EER, that is eligible enrollment ratio. Okay, these are wonderful measures, but what UN has called it now as CR, completion ratio, means those who are able to attain some degree of completion in tertiary education. This is what can reveal the extent of the number of youth who enter tertiary or higher education and are unable to complete it at certain level. The UN continues to state, challenges remain. Even with the large pool of graduates of tertiary education, many do not have locally relevant skills needed for a successful integration into the labor market. Tertiary education also remains out of reach of many of the world's poorest and most marginalized. As you know, expansion, inclusion, and excellence are the three focal points of our NEP, National Education Policy 2020. Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, our well-known scientist, he writes in his book, Reinventing India, he says, India must dramatically increase its supply of trained and highly educated workers to sustain its high growth trajectory over the next 30 years, create more and better quality jobs, and enable all its people to realize the aspirations created by the country's recent economic success. M.J. Vinod writes in his book, Empowering Marginalized Communities in India, he observes that marginalized tends to keep people powerless. The question is whether higher education, he writes, whether higher education mirrors rather than remedies inequality. Is inequality remedied by higher education, or really it just reflects it? For education to be meaningful, it has an important role to play in achieving greater equity and social justice, which has to do with fairness. Speaking about inclusion, Dr. Mashelkar puts it in a very, very simple way. He says, inclusion means including the excluded. And he says, balancing expansion, inclusion, and excellence in the Indian context requires a greater will. That's why we are here, friends, to strengthen our will, skill, and innovation. Exactly. That's what we are expecting this conference to come up with lots of innovative experiences and innovative ideas that can help us to attend to this present scenario of dropouts from tertiary education in India. In the financial year 2019, the gross enrollment ratio for the tertiary level of education in India was 26%. In the same rate, gross graduation ratio for tertiary education for India was 28%, though India's gross graduation ratio for tertiary education fluctuated substantially in the recent years. It tends to decrease through 2013 to 2019. That's what was predicted. The Hindu paper reported that according to the IGNOU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, in our country, overall dropout rates at 10th and 10 plus 2 school level, that is secondary and higher secondary or tertiary level, they are around 60% at 10th and 80% at class 12, respectively. According to a survey conducted by the Indian government's National Statistical Office, NSO, 1 out of every 8 students enrolled in a school or college drops out before completing their education. So really, friends, to address the issue of dropouts in tertiary education, we have to go back to the schools to see what happens at these schools and why dropout ratios are so high. School accounts for more than 62% of all the dropouts, and high school accounts for 62.9%. Now, despite the soaring numbers of college enrollments, college dropouts numbers tend to continue. Statista.com published gross tertiary ratio of female in Asia Pacific region in 2018-19 by country and region. According to them, the Indian tertiary graduation ratio of female in 2018 has been 30.56%, while in 2019, it has been 31.40%. The graduation ratio they describe is the expected probability of graduation for the first time from tertiary education before the age threshold, that is the upper limit to complete the tertiary degree, if current patterns are maintained. Beloved friends, participants of this national conference, we are not here to really point a finger of blame at anybody. We are here to understand our youth. We just don't call them dropouts, but we understand them, and to understand what we are offering them through our education, the quality of our education, and its relevance to their life, to their aspirations, and to their dreams. What can we do to offer them what suits their challenging situations? They're often semi-literate families. Their financial constraints that make good education inaccessible to them. Their difficulties to understand the subjects that are offered at their schools or at the colleges. Their challenge to learn what we teach and how we teach them, and myriad of other questions. Beloved friends, our tertiary education dropouts have the same nobility which every other youth in this country has. Their special talents and capacities, their love for learning. Unfortunately, they are victims of their situations, and they know their loss of being out of education, and they cry in loneliness at their plight. We as teachers, we as authorities, as parents, as principals, as community members, we cannot bypass our responsibilities towards these youth. Let this conference discuss every possible aspect of this great challenge and come up with creative solutions that suit our youth at our personal levels, at the institutional level, and as teachers and community members. Let me end these opening remarks by this quotation, beautiful quotation, which says, "Knowledge is as wings to man's life and a ladder for his ascent." Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was such a wonderful video that has been shared as the theme video of this conference. Thank you very much, sir, once again for these wonderful opening remarks, providing so many facts and addressing this issue of dropouts at absolute basic level. You have also made us realize that how on moral and practical grounds all of us together can work for these wonderful students, offering sustainable and creative solutions for them. Thank you so much, sir.